Welcome back, Justin Tucker here. This video is going to continue down our road of learning views. And in the last video, I basically just gave you a really quick introduction. We installed and enabled the modules, the basic views modules. We went to structure and then views. And now we come to this page, which is basically showing us a list of views that are system defaults and they're not enabled. This is why they're grayed out. We're going to ignore these right now, and we're going to actually create our own view, okay? And again, for those of you joining us, this site is based around a fictitious website where you've got several layers of developers, and it's going to be an area where developers can try to find and post jobs for one another, whether they're a company or individual, and then there's going to be a place where potential clients can come, post their project, and receive bid submissions from these developers, again, whether they're a company or an individual. So we've got some content types created. We've got some dummy content in the website. And this first view, let's just, I don't know, let's make it simple. So you click Add New View, and it's really nice to get going with this form. I don't think it always used to be this way. I know 6 wasn't. So just kind of fill out the form here. So what's the view name? Well, let's make this view around, I don't know, let's see. We're going to have um, some jobs available postings. Okay, so let's go ahead and call it jobs available postings. And so what this is going to be, or our goal here, is to try to produce a page that has a list of jobs available postings on it. And that's what we're going to do right now, is just create a really basic list. Later we're going to actually filter the list. We're going to show how to offer some of those filters to a user so that they can use the list and search through it so it's more meaningful for them. And here's kind of where it gets into the magic. So it asks you show what of type what. Okay, so if we look at the options, it'll say show content, comments, users, content revisions, taxonomy terms, files, locations, modules, theme engine. These are essentially it's asking what table in the database is the primary table to be drawing the information from. And this is an important concept to understand, because we're going to learn later that if there's another table in the database that we need to draw information from, that's going to be what's called a relationship. And so it's important to understand what our base table is. So if we were making a page where we wanted to show a list of user profiles, it would make logical sense to make that base table users here. But in this case, the jobs available posting is a content type, and so we're going to leave it at content. And it asks us of type, and we are going to choose jobs available posting. Now again, hopefully by now you understand why early on in some early videos I kind of gave you some chronological ideas on how to proceed, so that when you get to places like this, you're not going backwards and saying, oh, I need to show a page of content that I don't yet have a type for. Well, then at this stage you'll have to stop, go to structure, content types, add new content types, add your fields so that it becomes available to you in this drop-down list. Sorted by, we're going to go ahead and say newest first right now, but later we're going to show you how to give your user the option to add their own sort criteria so that they can see the list how they want to. This is checked as create a page, and we're going to go ahead and leave this checked because I actually want a menu item to show up at the top of the website to this page for now anyway. And then it tells you what the path is going to be based on what you've added, but of course you can add other stuff behind that URL. So here you're just actually naming the path that's going to invoke this page, if you will, and show you what we're about to build here. Display format. Now this is I hope this is easy to understand. I've had people with troubles with this, but the display format is basically it's different forms of the same thing. So unformatted list typically shows you a title and then some teaser text. Okay, and there's other places in your site to configure what that teaser text is and how that can be displayed, but that's the default view. This is really a common display you see with blogs, where you see the title and then a little blurb or teaser text, a paragraph or two about what this, about what the body is containing. If I choose grid, it's still going to show the same information, but not in a one on top of the other. It's going to show the information in a grid, like uh, 4 across, 4 down, or something to that effect. If I choose table, it's going to show it in tables with rows and columns. Jump menu, unformatted list. So that's what a display format is. The cool thing is that if you don't get the display format you want here, obviously, along with everything else on this form, you'll be able to change that later on, and that's very common. I do that all the time. I start with one display and realize, no, I think this product page showing all these products looks better as a grid than in a table or something to that effect. So we're going to say unformatted list for now. We'll leave it at teasers because I want to show you how to be able to choose fields and actually pick and choose all the fields that we've added in the earlier videos to our content types. You can actually pluck those fields out that you actually want to show on this page if as you see fit. Items to display. Um, Usually, you wouldn't want to. If you use 0, that means unlimited. In this example, we probably don't want to do that because we'll have potentially a page that just gets longer and longer and longer. That means a larger page load forever and ever. So we may say 50 here, so it'll show 50 results, and then we have use a pager checked, which means that it'll show the little pagination of 1, 2, 3, 4, previous and next buttons at the bottom. Obviously, you don't have to use that. Again, if you want to change your mind later, we can. We do want to create a menu link. We want that menu link to go in the main menu, and I am just going to call this link, I'm just going to call it available postings, jobs assumed. And I'm going to go ahead and create an RSS feed in case anybody wants to subscribe to this. It provides the path for you. You can change this. We'll leave it as content for now, and we'll go ahead and hit, well, you know what, let's create a block too. And I'll also call this available postings. So I want to illustrate this to you. But this will create a block in the blocks area that you can actually move around into one of the available regions on your template. Again, if you think about it, at this point, we're just saying, hey, this is the information we want, and the other half of that is, and how would we like to dish it out to the user, and that's what's going to dive into display formats, and in this case, we have a block that we can deliver to a user, and we also have display formats for that block. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Continue and Edit. And here is our views interface. Okay, now this will take some getting used to. Okay, and hopefully just by going through this example you can familiarize yourself enough to where you get the hang of it. I've actually seen some people give some really harsh comments on views as to saying this is unnecessary, this is too much to have to learn. And while I can understand that if you're brand new diving into views, one thing that you can't ignore is that it is way easier than building custom SQL queries, especially very complex ones. So just understand that the time it takes for you to understand and learn this little user interface is well worth it, because you'll be able to create some amazing dynamic things, and it will create all the SQL needed to run that magic for you. So if we look at it right now, let's just start over here. We have the title, which we gave it earlier. We have it as unformatted list settings, show fields of settings, or we have settings to go into how these fields show, settings to go into how this formatted or unformatted list format is set up. And you'll notice that the fields right now we're bringing in is the content title, and you'll notice that it's filtered, published yes, content type equals jobs posting. So let's just read this like it's a sentence. What we're saying right now is I want to display jobs postings or jobs available postings. I only want you to show the title, and I want you to display it in this unformatted list, sorted by newest first. Okay? And if we go down, it actually shows us what we asked it to do. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 jobs available postings on the website. We only see its title, and it is newest on the top. Okay? That is great. It works, but we want to obviously add more. So to get started to do that, a lot of time will be spent in this fields area, because this is where you go, you click add, and you actually go look for the fields that pertain to a jobs available posting. You'll notice this list is quite long. These are all the pieces of information in the database that we can pluck out and place on our page if we want to. So I'm going to type in the search term for available, and it brings up my jobs available posting content type. Earlier I was talking about how naming convention, I'll usually put the name of the content type in front of the name of the field. This is why, so that among this giant list of fields I can search for it and clearly see that this is the jobs available content type. I could have put purple elephant here, but that wouldn't have been helpful. Okay, Drupal doesn't care; it still works just fine. But this is a little bit more intuitive way, in my opinion, to be able to use what you're building yourself. So these all look good, actually. I'll go ahead and add all these fields. The body, I'll add the location. I use the location module. I doubt that those got filled in when I did the develop generate. Um, we'll do job requirements. We'll do job type. Why not? Remote allowed. Okay. So basically what I've done here is I've just told views, hey, I want to use these fields in some fashion or another in my view. Okay. And when I click to apply to all displays, it's going to actually take me in to configure each field. Okay. So this would be the label of this field, and I'm actually going to call it job description. And we will, the formatter, default plain text trimmed, we'll say trimmed, and I'll say trim it up to 250 characters. You can get into style settings. You can get into no results behavior. So if there is no value, depending on how your view is set up, you can actually have some text for that. Rewrite results. Um, we may cover some examples of how this can be used, and you've got this more button. I typically usually don't have to dive into these. Sometimes I'll dive into the style settings quite a bit. And if it's an image field with multiple image, rewrite results sometimes can help as well. But typically you can just address the label, your formatter, and then hit apply. And so that was for the body field, and the body contains text. This is the job location field. You notice the formatter changed a little bit because this was a field from the location module that takes dedicated address, street information, postal code, stuff like that. And the formatter, I only have one. Right now I'll leave all this alone. I will take the word job out of the label because that's assumed, and just leave it as location. I'll hit apply, and it will dive me into the next field, job requirements. I'll just say requirements. The formatter, we got default, plain text, trim. I'll just leave it at default. Hit apply. It takes me to job type. Now this is actually a taxonomy term that we added in the taxonomy section of the website, and then we added that taxonomy, those values, as a field to the jobs available posting content type. And so this is asking, how would you like us to format this, as a link, plain text, or RSS category? We'll leave it as a link right now. We'll hit apply. And is remote allowed? Again, this was also a taxonomy term, so it's giving us the same formatters. I'll go ahead and leave this alone as well and hit apply. Now you'll notice, instead of just titles, look at all this other information we had. Granted, it doesn't look pretty right now, but the point I'm trying to make is you just went out to the database and said, bring me this information onto a page in this way. And that's a very, very powerful thing to be able to do, because, again, your alternative is to understand and learn SQL and be a master of it. So this isn't really a helpful layout, obviously. There's the title, there's the job description, there's the location. So this is just kind of a raw output in a list. and I would like to make that a little bit better looking. So if I go up to Format, okay, and this is what I meant earlier about they're just different forms of the same thing, I'm going to choose Table. And you'll notice that it's still the same information, and we get to configure some things on this table. So, I'll just go ahead and make all of these sortable. You can group by fields, so you got some other options here. But once I save this, you'll notice that the data down here now displays, okay, in a table format. It is the exact same data, except it's now in a table, and my labels became the headers for my table. So this one doesn't have a header. I'll give it one. It's the title. So I'll click on title, and I'll say create label, and I'll give it what? Job name. Hit apply, and then there we go. On the requirements list, if you notice, that's a huge chunk of text. I should probably trim it like I did the job description so that we get these nice tables that lay out. So let me go into requirements, and let me choose trimmed, and I think 250 is what I did on the other one. I'll go ahead and click apply. And now you'll know that I get a little bit better and cleaner looking table, which is something now that should be a little bit more meaningful, meaning this is going to be representative of a page that when I go to, I can see the name, the description, where it's at, what I need to have under my belt, the different categories of the job types it is placed under, and then is remote allowed, yes or no. So if I save this at the top right, it's going to preserve everything that I have just done, and I have now created my first view, and it tells me the job view, jobs available posting has been saved. Okay? And if I go to the home page of my website, I should have a new top link, and there it is, available postings. And if I click that, it should get the table that I just created, and there it is. Now, granted, this is still kind of raw looking. There are clearly tons of things you can do to go in there and clean up the look of this. But again, right now we're just talking pure functionality, how you can utilize a tool to do something for you. In this case, we were reviewing the views module, and this is a very basic view of one content type that we have got uh, in our website, in our database. You'll notice that because this is a view, you'll see that the URL, this is what invokes this view because we defined that when we created the view. We also have this gearbox that pops up on the top right, and if we click Edit View, it takes us right back into this. Um, in case you haven't noticed, I usually don't use the overlay tool that comes with Drupal. It's just an old school habit. I know it's a little bit better. So if you're getting a different experience when you have an overlay, usually if I click this right now and this opened up in the overlay, when I saved it, the overlay would go away and it would refresh the views page. My old-fashioned way requires me to click back home to see it. So um, no big deal there. It's just a habit for me to break. So I'm going to leave it off at this point. There is a bunch of other things that views can do. Um, well, real quick, what I'll review is how we got the link at the top of the page. We got that when we filled out our form, but this is where you can go and actually change, hey, I know I defined the path earlier as jobs, available postings, but I want to change that. You could do that here, hit apply, and then menu. We're basically just telling it that we want a normal menu entry. This is why this radio button is checked. We want the title to be available postings, and we want it to show in the main menu. And you can change the weight, or you can naturally go into structure, menus, main menu, list links, and you'll notice that there's available postings. So maybe I want to move that up right after the home tab. And there we go. So going back to the view, that's where we're at right now. We added the fields we wanted. We told it to show as a table. The criteria is that it has to be published and it has to be of the type jobs available posting. If I didn't have this here, it would want to show you a list of all content. Okay? And then of course we've got job type. So what we're going to do in the next video is actually add an exposed filter, so that, let's say this is there's thousands of jobs on the website, and we want to give the ability for the user to choose what type of job it is. Is it temporary? Is it full employment? Is it other? And to be able to sort by that, we'll also allow them to sort by whether it's remote or not, and and go from there. So, as always, if you enjoy these, please subscribe. Questions and comments are always welcome, and I'm happy to answer. And I will see you on the next video.